Proceed.
Okay, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the Fireside Chat Show of MBA Department of Swami Vivekananda Group of Institutes. It is being jointly organized with HR Sampark, the People Group. Today, our guest of honor is Mr. Ashok Chakraborty, the Senior Consultant of Manav Power Consulting LLP. Mr. Chakraborty is having more than 35 years of experience in labor laws, industrial relations, and statutory management. So, it is our privilege to have Mr. Chakraborty at our show. Welcome, Mr. Ashok Chakraborty, to our show.
Yes. Your queries, please.
Right, sir. আপনি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন তো?
হ্যাঁ, আমি শুনি।
Okay, sir. Okay. So, sir, my first direct question to you would be, what is your take on the present PF rule? I mean that which has been reduced from 12% to 10%, specifically in this COVID-19 affected lockdown period.
I understand. The main purpose of this rule, as is notified in the notification, you see, in the considering the current economic situation, the current economic scenario, the central government has decided both parties to provide some liquidity to both employer and employee. In that context, certain amendments have been made in the EPF Act. Particularly, I would say, you see, in the Gazette notification number GDLF and such dated 18/05/2000. So here, both just in order to provide this relief, the contribution, this relief is of temporary nature, which will be available from May 2020 to July 2020, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, actually, the editing of the contribution remains the same. You know, there are four accounts wherein the contributions can be credited. Say, so far as PF is concerned, 10% both for the employer and employee, and out of this 10% into account number 1, 8.33 goes to the employee's pension account, and the balance 1.6 will be credited along with 10% to the employee's provident fund account. Right? You get it?
Okay. Right.
After that, the EDLI contribution, that same thing, that's the employer's liability on 50% of the wages. And account 22 has, of course, been abolished because no administrative charges, the same thing remains. You don't pay administrative charges on employees' deposit link insurance, right? And of course, the administrative charges in account number 2 for PF remains the same, 50%, a minimum 500 rupees. Yes.
Got it.
Right.
Fine. So it would be great, sir, if you just can explain for the benefit of our student actually, what is the present rule of the ESICs? I mean, what is the employee contribution and what is the employer contribution right now?
Correct. Now that thing, you see, there's been an amendment of the ESI Act recently, reducing the both contributions. That has become effective from June 2017. Employees' contribution now stands at 0.75%, and the corresponding share of employees' contribution stands at 3.25%. Right? You get it?
Okay. So 1.75 is the employee and the 3.25 would be from the employer.
No, not 1.75. Employees pays 0.75% of gross salary.
Okay, 0.75. Okay.
0.75%, and the corresponding share of employees' contribution now stands at 3.25% of the gross wage.
Okay, that means the total contribution is basically 4%.
4%, right.
4%. Okay. So one of the common question that people are asking nowadays that whether this ESIC covered these COVID-19 patients. I mean, these corona patients.
Okay, now here is the very important question you have. You see, my view will be any person who has registered himself with an IMP or a service dispensary. The problem here is that once an employee gets his insurance card, he keeps it in his pocket. But I will always advise, once the employee issues his e-Pehchan card, the first step for him is to report to a service dispensary or to an IMP. That means an individual insurance medical practitioner. Individual. But now that thing has changed. It would be advisable to report to the nearest service dispensary nearest to his residence and get himself registered. There's a medical acceptance form that has to be submitted. That will be endorsed by the service dispensary. So he registered himself with a dispensary. So now what happens? Be it COVID-19, he becomes eligible for consultation or medical treatment under ESI. Now COVID-19, the basic thing is that he is registered in insurable employee and eligible to treatment. In case basic points, in case there is a symptoms, he can, at first he should go to this panel doctor or to the service dispensary, and thereafter service dispensary whether he will decide after examining him, or he may approach directly to the health ministry who may. But since he's in insurable employment, his first obligation would be, in case he feels as asymptomatic, to report to his panel doctor or the service dispensary. Thereafter, that authority will decide whether he needs to be referred to a COVID-19 hospital or not. Because he's entitled to facilities under ESI, being in insurable employment. Right?
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Got it?
So present limit is like for the ESIC is 21,000, right? In the salary per month. That is 21,000.
Right, 21,000. It includes all the components. Whatever components are there in the wage packet, monthly wage packet, that is
monthly wage.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, sir, coming from that ESIC, we are coming to the gratuity. What is the maximum limit of gratuity right now? Is it 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs?
20 lakhs from 2018. From 2000, by notification in the month of June, is 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs. 20
lakhs. Okay. Right. And the minimum service period is five years, or some people are talking about 4 years to 40 months like that, 40 days like that.
No. This is Section 2A has broadened the definition of continuous service. Section 2A of the Gratuity Act has widened the definition of continuous service. It includes many interruptions. There are several interruptions, say sick leave and strike, which is not illegal. Then any interruption which is not due to the fault of the employer. Now here, continuous, these are the interruption, sickness benefit, leave with wages, authorized leave, it may be without wages. This covers the entire, these elements constitute the definition of under Section 2A of continuous service. So continuous service is 5 years. But this is waived in the case of this particular 5 years condition has been waived in case of death or disablement. Here, 5 years. That is the.
Okay. So, in case of the death or the disablement, so what is the minimum? The service period is required.
You see, it depends. In a span of 6 months, in case that mishaps arise, then 120 days in a spell of 6 months. If any contingency arrives, say within a period of 6 months of joining, then that employee must have completed 120 days minimum. What?
Okay.
Right.
Fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. For the explanation. So my next question would be that we know that HRA is taxable. That is the house rent allowances. But what is the rule actually?
Now that you see, actually that will be that depends on the entire amount of a certain limit. HR is always taxable, no doubt. The component, but in case if you are paying rent, if you can produce the rent receipt, then there's a certain rebate is there. A certain amount of
Right.
rebate is granted under the Income Tax Act. That procedure, an income tax consultant will be able to advise you in a better way.
Okay. Got it.
Right?
Okay. It would be, I mean, easy for, most of them, a lot of, my HR friend are having confusion regarding this thing, I mean, the calculation of the statutory bonus. I mean, what should be the minimum limit? What should be the maximum limit? How to calculate, when to give, when not to give. So if you can enlighten something on that, actually, statutory bonus.
Statutory bonus. Let me give you the background. You must be knowing when the Bonus Act was enforced through an ordinance, and subsequently it was promulgated into an act. There have been several amendments from time to time. The first amendment was 4% of the, and subsequently 8.33, gradually
Right.
it went down. Now the coverage limit is 21,000 basic plus DA, 21,000. But for the calculation of bonus, 7,000 rupees is the minimum, or the minimum rate of wages, whichever is higher. That should be the base wages.
Okay.
So minimum is 8.33 and maximum is 20%. 20%. Okay. And there, of course, so far as eligibility is concerned, for qualifying for bonus, one needs to work for a minimum of 30 working days during an accounting year. 30 working days. Okay.
30 working days. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Of course, there are certain, when in case of misconduct, right, then bonus can be forfeited. There is certain ground you have to take disciplinary action in case of disqualification for bonus.
Right. So this statutory bonus and the festival bonus are similar, or it's different?
No. Now actually everything is guided by the bonus act. You see, bonus is actually disbursal within 8 months of the close of the accounting year. You see, within 8 months of the close of the accounting, you were to disburse your bonus payments.
Okay.
Within 8 months. So that naturally in Bengal, it is so way adjusted that it generally falls before the ensuing Durga Puja, which is the big, which is the biggest festival, just to facilitate additional expenses to be borne by the employees.
Right. I mean, there is another terminology we have heard that is called ex gratia payment. So,
Yes,
I mean, those who are, what is that, sir?
Ex gratia payment. Now that is something, those above rupees 21,000, they are totally exempted from the purview of the Bonus Act. But there is a discretion. It is entirely up to the discretion of the employer to make some ex gratia. Within the limit of 20,000, it becomes a statutory payment. But ex gratia depends entirely upon there are high-profile managers who obviously draw much higher salaries exceeding 21,000. Now, in that case, just to defray the special expenses during the festive season, some additional expenses are borne. And I like to say in this connection, even the apprentices who are registered under the Apprentices Act, they are not entitled to statutory bonus. Okay, they are paid stipend. Well, in that case, some expenses are also made to them. That is the practice. It's not a statutory obligation. It's not a statutory obligation, right? Yes.
Okay. So, sir, my last question would be, like in the Workmen's Compensation Act, what is the present, compensation for the permanent total disablement and the partial total disablement right now?
Oh, yeah. This is the very important question. Now, first of all, I would like to say the workmen's compensation has been renamed as employees' compensation through an amendment.
Okay.
That has come into effect from 2nd June 2010. This is the latest amendment. Now the act is known as the Employees Compensation Act. Right. It is known as
Great. Thank you for the information.
Employees Compensation Act. Now here, what has happened is the benefit. You see, so now I have to refer to see if it results in case of death arising out of injury, the compensation is payable. It is 50% of the monthly wages relevant by the multiplied by the relevant factor. These relevant factors have been laid down in the schedule to that, and you have to refer to the schedule to arrive at the relevant. In any case, that 120 lakhs is the minimum. If the amount is less than 120 lakhs, you pay the minimum. And if the relevant factor results more than 1,20,000, that is payable. That is payable. Right? In case of
whichever is higher. Whichever is higher.
Yes, whichever is higher.
Right.
I mean, that is the minimum, the 120 lakhs. But whatever is the higher result you have, you pay that.
Okay.
But it depends on the various factors that is laid down in the fourth schedule to that. In the fourth schedule, that this has a certain percentage depending on age factor, the last birthday, and in the case of permanent total disablement, that is the same principle applies. The minimum is 1,40,000, 60% of the monthly wages.
Okay.
And whatever is the higher after multiplying by the relevant factor, if it is more than 1,40,000, you pay that.
Okay. So in case of death, it is 1,20,000, and the permanent is
because permanent death, he is able to work but under the reduced capacity. Death in that case, he is no longer in the partial and permanent disablement. He is still fit for work, but he is partially disabled. He has lost his earning capacity. He has reduced his earning. In that case, but he continues to be in employment on a reduced scale. On a reduced lump sum compensation is that amount payable. That amount which is 1,40,000 minimum, 60% of the wages, or whichever is more.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Chakraborty. Yeah, tell me.
One more thing: those who are covered
yes.
will not come under the purview of this Employees Compensation Act. You can't draw benefits from both. See, those who fall within the purview of the ESI Act. The entire liability is on the ESI corporation to pay compensation and all. But obviously they'll come under ESI Act, but obviously they will not be entitled to any benefit under the Employees Compensation Act. Those who are outside the ambit of the ESI Act, obviously in that case, the Employees Compensation Act will apply. Those who are outside the ambit, right?
Got it. Okay. Fine. Thank you so much for the clarification, sir, and thank you so much, Mr. Chakraborty, for coming to our show and explaining all these things for the benefit of our students. So we hope after the lockdown is totally over, when our college will open, it will be great if you can come to our campus someday and interact with the students directly. So that will be very beneficial for our students.
My pleasure.
So thank you again from the MBA department of Swami Vivekananda Group of Institutes, as well as the HR Sampark who are organizing this event actually. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Are you convinced with my delivery? Are you thoroughly convinced with what I have delivered to you through this?
Definitely. It is very beneficial. I hope it will be beneficial for the greater community, students community as well. So I'll definitely give you the feedback, what they are talking, about the feedback of the students specifically. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.